Just now, Thomas Massie made a move in Congress that brought questions Washington has ignored for years to the table. He didn't put on a show, nor did he beat around the bush. He stood up during the session, looked directly at Kash Patel, and uttered that critical sentence that no one dared to ask out loud. Did you really read the Epstein files? The response he received was not entirely clear. This very uncertainty was the main reason this image was replayed over and over on all major channels tonight. When you see what Massie caught from that file and how Patel's facial expression changed when certain names were mentioned, the pieces will fall into place. This event could escalate at any moment, and you should be the first to hear about the developments. So watch the video until the end, and don't lose track of the truth. The House Judiciary Committee's oversight hearing is in its afternoon session. It was supposed to be ordinary on paper. Budget questions, operational updates, counterterrorism briefings, that classic Washington scene where they pretend everything is being discussed, but actually nothing is said. Think of it like that. Kash Patel entered the room with his usual confidence. He had 3 lawyers with him. His 2 assistants were carrying his briefcases. That confident walk, shoulders back, chin up. He had been through this type of hearing countless times. He knew well how to divert the topic, how to waste time, and how to construct sentences that sounded like answers but actually said nothing. He thought today would be the same, but it wasn't as he thought, because Thomas Massie was waiting for him. For those unfamiliar with Massie, it's enough to know this. This man doesn't ask any question without roughly estimating the answer. An MIT graduate, an engineer, and a truly libertarian politician. He's the type who reads every text, scrutinizes every piece of information, and can say, "I don't care," even if his own party doesn't like it. This is why they call him Mr. No. He opposes anything that doesn't pass through his own logical filter. He doesn't care about image. He only cares about what is real. And today, he had proof, not just empty words. The first 45 minutes of the trial were purely procedural. Other members took turns asking questions. Cybersecurity protocols, concerns about China's espionage activities, domestic terrorism statistics. Patel listed his polished, pretend to answer, but actually don't answer responses. He glanced over his notes twice, looking relaxed. He thought he was still in control. Then it was Massie's turn. The atmosphere in the room had suddenly changed. You know that something's about to happen feeling? Everyone in the salon noticed at the same time. The electrical tension had risen. Massie didn't smile. He didn't utter any small words of kindness, nor did he make the usual introductions. He simply opened the file in his hand, thick, red-covered, divided by colored tabs, and got straight to the point without any preamble. "Director Patel, I have 4 documents I would like to be entered into the record," he said. The salon fell completely silent. Massie continued. The session was calm, almost like a conversation, but with every word finding its mark. "The first one," he said, "is titled, 'The Patient History of Jeffrey Epstein Lived in Plain Sight for Years.'" He then read a quote from former U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta. "I was told that Epstein belonged to intelligence and should be left alone." He paused for a moment. He let the sentence echo in the hall. "Leave me alone." It was only 3 words, but it was very heavy. "The second document," he said, "is titled, 'What Epstein's Bodyguard Warned About CIA Connections.'" Thirdly, from Fox Digital, Epstein's private calendar reveals planned meetings with Obama administration official and CIA director. "And the last one," he said, "is an article from the Wall Street Journal that claims former Israeli Prime Minister and military intelligence chief Ehud Barak met with Jeffrey Epstein 36 times. Massie looked up from her papers. He looked without blinking. "If there are no objections, let these documents be recorded." Patel's face hasn't changed much, but his hands, that's where the real change is. They shifted slightly on the table. Their fingers suddenly pressed down harder. That small detail gave away the tension inside, and Massie had just started. "Director Patel," said Massie. I watched your Senate session yesterday. Do you remember that Senator Kennedy asked you something very clearly? You've seen most of the files. To whom did Epstein sell these women beside himself? You also responded, using the phrase recorded in the minutes, that there is no reliable information that he sold them to someone else. Massie leaned forward a little. This answer is interesting to me, he said, because it doesn't quite align with what's in the files you have. It was as if the temperature in the room had dropped a notch. The air has become heavy. Patel tried to intervene and answer, but Massie didn't stop. Also, he said, you mentioned that the files were limited in scope due to the limited search warrants in the 2006 to 2007 period, and that the non-prosecution agreement hindered future investigations. This might be true for the Southern District of Florida, but that doesn't apply to the Southern District of New York, does it? That's where the 2019 sex trafficking indictment came from. The indictment, which produced thousands of pages of material and generated numerous FD 302 documents. Massie pulled another page from the papers in front of her. FD 302S, he said. Let me tell the viewers, these are the FBI's interview summaries. Official registration. It's not gossip. It's not commentary. These are texts documenting what witnesses told federal agents during the official process. His tone was still calm, but the sentences were now heading toward their target. According to the accounts of victims who cooperated with the FBI in that investigation, these documents in the FBI's possession, the documents that should be in your hands, Director Patel, describe in detail at least 20 men who directed Jeffrey Epstein's victims. Among these names is Jess Staley, the CEO of Barclays Bank. Among the victims are minors. One of them was Virginia Roberts Giuffre. May his soul rest in peace. Time had literally stopped in the living room. The clicking of camera shutters could be heard. Journalists were frantically typing on their phones. The committee members looked at each other, and the surprise on their faces was slowly turning into an expression of, finally, someone said it out loud, and Massie hadn't finished yet. Look, said Massie, there are at least 19 more people on this list. A Hollywood producer with a fortune worth hundreds of millions of dollars, a royal prince, a very high-profile name from the music industry, an extremely well-known banker, a high-ranking government official, a former but still very influential politician, the owner of an automotive company in Italy, a rock star, an illusionist, and at least 6 billionaires, including a Canadian billionaire. Then, without taking his eyes off Patel, he looked at him. We know these people are mentioned in FBI files, he said. In the files under your control. I don't know who they are one by one, maybe, but the FBI does. Patel tried to intervene. Congressman, those restrictions I mentioned. Massie cut him off and continued without slowing down. Have you initiated any investigation into these individuals? Silence. A full 20 seconds. Uninterrupted, complete silence. In a congressional hearing, 20 seconds feels like a lifetime. This is the moment when the witness admits they don't actually have an answer to give. It's that freeze frame moment that everyone watching thought, this moment will be talked about for years. Patel finally spoke. This time, his tone was lower, more cautious. Congressman, the claim that the victims are not credible is not mine. The assessment of 2 different U.S. attorneys' offices across 3 separate administrations examining the same material is in this direction. Massie shook her head slightly. I didn't ask that, he said. Are the FD 302 documents in the FBI's possession? Yes or no? Patel paused for a moment. Yes. Okay, said Massie. Did you personally read those FD 302s that contained what the victims said was done to them and the names they gave? Patel tried to gather himself. Personally, I don't know, but the FBI evaluated them. Massie leaned back. So, how can you stand before the Senate and say no names without even reading the files yourself? He asked. Patel's jaw tightened. The muscle under his ear seemed to have become more prominent all of a sudden. Now, said Patel, we don't have a habit of releasing victim names at the Department of Justice or the FBI. We don't do that. We also don't have a method for bringing unreliable or, as you put it, unbelievable information to the public. But suddenly, multiple officials looked at everything we had. Massie's face didn't change again. Okay, he said, I have to keep going. Were you also at that White House event where the Attorney General distributed folders to social media influencers? Patel nodded. Yes, he said. I was there. Okay, said Massie. If you're ready to meet with social media phenomena who will extract content from these victims' painful and sensational stories, will you also sit down and talk to the victims? The question hung in the middle of the room, like something tangible. You could feel a slight reaction from the gallery. Some people were nodding their heads, whispering, and there were a few clear, sounds. Patel glanced at his lawyers for a moment, but no one handed him a note. No one whispered anything in his ear. This time, I think he was alone. Finally, he said, the FBI will speak with anyone who has information. Massie pressed the same point. Will you meet with him personally? Patel tried to avoid it. The FBI and the professionals handling the case will discuss it. Massie didn't soften at all. I didn't ask that. The tension at that moment had become uncomfortable, but that's precisely why it turns into what you call good television, because there was a genuine struggle. Massie changed direction. Did you receive an instruction that it was important for these files to be released on the day I filed a motion to have them submitted to the Oversight Committee and made public? Patel blinked. I have no idea what day it is. So no such instruction came. Massie's tone hardened a bit, but they were published exactly that day. Besides, it was so rushed that even unedited victim names appeared. The victims are not happy about this situation, Director. Another silence. Patel had no answer to give. And then came the question that would summarize the entire trial. Did you investigate CIA connections? Did you see a CIA file on Jeffrey Epstein? And if you wanted to see it, would they really show it to you? This is where the knot will be completely untied. The tone of Patel's response was such that it wasn't just careful, it was almost overly careful. He was now choosing his words carefully, weighing them one by one. I can speak on behalf of the FBI, he said, and that assumes there's a CIA file out there. We reviewed everything shared between agencies, not me, the FBI. Massie immediately followed up. If there's a CIA file on Jeffrey Epstein, are you willing to review it? Patel spoke more slowly this time. If such a file exists and hasn't been handed over to the FBI by now, the FBI will look for new investigation leads. Hear the sentences again. If there are any. If it wasn't delivered. It's always conditional. Always in between. There's no clear commitment. This is either the language of someone who truly doesn't know or someone who doesn't want to reveal what they do know. Massie didn't push any further at that point because he had already gotten what he was looking for. That uncertainty was now officially on record. Then he changed the route, expanding the record with other questions. Have you made progress in the January 6 pipe bomb investigation? So, is there any progress on the Las Vegas shooter's motivation? Patel seemed relieved, as if he had moved to another plane. Regarding the first, he said, there is an ongoing investigation and we have made progress. For the second one, sir, I will need to get back to you. Massie nodded. Okay, thank you. My time is up. And it's over. 5 minutes total. 5 minutes to dismantle carefully constructed conversation patterns built up over months. 5 minutes to make the gaps in the story visible. 5 minutes to leave behind 20 names, a potential CIA file, and a chain of questions etched into congressional records. Within a few minutes, that image was every place. Things got heated on X, and video after video came out on TikTok. News channels interrupted their normal programming and started broadcasting breaking news. Lawyers were already discussing at that moment, is Massie leaving a trail here for future subpoenas? And probably, somewhere at FBI headquarters, people were frantically searching for a formula on how to answer questions that are not normally supposed to be discussed in front of cameras. Now, let me calmly explain why this is so critical. For years, the Epstein case has been treated as if it were a dark well we couldn't look into. Everyone feels something is happening there, but a clear picture isn't emerging. They say there are files, but they're closed. They say there are names, but they're blacked out line by line. Investigations were conducted, yes, but most of the time, they say completed and no conclusion is reached. What Massie did right here changed the game. The classified document was not leaked. He didn't break the rules. By simply juxtaposing publicly available sources, official statements, and a simple line of logic, he demonstrated the possibility that something or someone might be protected within the system. Moreover, he did it in such a way that he forced the FBI director to either clearly confirm or clearly deny the details. Patel, however, was unable to do either with convincing clarity. That's the real breaking point. The issue isn't whether we prove the crime or not. The point is this: to show that these questions are legitimate, that there is indeed material present, present and that the authorities are not actually doing what they claim. Massie, frankly, put Patel in a very difficult corner. If Patel says, "I read them all," then he is forced to face the following question. If you read them, then why is there no concrete action against anyone? If he says, "I didn't read," another problem arises. This time, then how can you speak so clearly about what's in the files? That's the logical way to do it. In both scenarios, a gap in reliability opens up, and that gap grows with every sentence. What Massie really did was create a documented record. Those 4 news items he introduced, those 20 people he pointed to, those questions he asked about CIA files, they are all now part of the official congressional record. So, if there's a new hearing tomorrow, it could be presented to you, and you could be referenced with, "Look, you said this here." It can be cited in summonses. It could become the backbone of a deeper investigation. And Patel cannot eliminate these by ignoring them. Yes, this isn't the first time the FBI has been questioned about the Epstein case, but we don't often see something done with this much preparation, this much specificity, this much planning, and this much widespread public interest. That's why it has a big impact. Massie didn't put on a show. He didn't shout. He didn't play to the camera or use dramatic sentences. He only asked clear and direct questions, then let Patel's evasive answers speak for themselves. That's also why it resonates with people so much, because people are tired of performance. He's tired of politicians who say, "We care," but do nothing, constantly repeating the same old tricks. What they watched today was a member of Congress who was based on real documents, pointed to real names, and really pressed for real answers. Whether these questions will actually be answered is another matter entirely, but this fact is very important. These questions are now on record. They were asked in front of the cameras. It wasn't asked in a way that could be swept under the rug. It was asked with a clarity that was almost impossible to ignore. 3 minutes. It only took 3 minutes. 3 minutes to get 20 names, 6 billionaires, a prince, a rock star, and the possibility of a CIA file into the congressional record. 3 minutes to reveal the fact that the FBI director did not personally examine the documents he made comprehensive assessments of in public. 3 minutes to show that the system might still be protecting someone. And now everyone watching this knows it. Massie didn't need to shout. Even if he heaps accusations on me, just asking was enough. And sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do in Washington is exactly this.